Hey everyone, it's Sarah, and today I am back with another subscriber requested video for you. So somebody asked me somebody left a comment on the first unicorn perfume video that I did, asking if I could go through the fragrances that I had in that video and maybe give some alternatives or dupes for those fragrances. Most of them I have smelled fragrances that smell similar to them. So most of them weren't like a super issue to find similar fragrances, but some of them are very, very difficult to dupe, and I've never smelled anything quite like them. So there are a few that I was just not able to do. But anyways, I'm gonna jump right in. I was gonna go ahead and pull the fragrances that I have that are similar, but so I have the one we're gonna start with, but then I was like, no, let me just pop pictures up. It'll probably be, I don't know, it'll be easier for me that way. Anyways, the first one we're gonna talk about is Miss Dior Cherie, the 2005 formulation. Now, the only fragrance that I know of that is currently being sold on the market today that you can still pick up, it's not 100% similar because it doesn't have that caramel popcorn note in it, but it is very, very similar to it, is this fragrance here from Montal. This is Montal Rose or Rose's Elixir. This, I've always said, this reminds me a lot of Miss Dior Cherie, the original formulation. It's really, really sweet, strong, long-lasting. It's very similar to the original formulation of Miss Dior Cherie. It just is missing like that caramely popcorn note, but you really don't even miss it because it's so similar. It's got such a similar feel to it. So though I don't think that there's anything that will ever truly replace the 2005 formulation of Miss Dior Cherie, I do think that this is the closest thing that I've ever smelled. Now there might be other things out there that I haven't smelled that I just don't know about, but as far as things that I have smelled, worn, and can recommend, this is definitely one of them. Now, I do know that Soap and Glory used to make a perfume and they totally ripped off Miss Dior Cherie, the 2005 formulation. That's what their original Righteous Butter smells like. They actually made a lot of their products smell like Miss Dior Cherie. So if you were able, I have looked pretty high and low for that Soap and Glory fragrance because I would love to have a bottle of it. If you can ever find a bottle of that, that's a really good alternative. It smells almost identical to it, but that one I think is just as hard to find as the original Miss Dior Cherie. Okay, Dior Addict. Now, I have always known about two fragrances on the market that get compared to Dior Addict, the original formulation, a lot. I haven't smelled either of these fragrances myself yet, but these are ones that I've heard over and over again people say are supposed to smell like them. The first one is Jacomo Silence's Purple. Now, I have owned a couple of the Jacomo Silence's fragrances in the past, and I can tell you they are very, very similar to whatever they're duping. I had the black one, which I think was a dupe of Chanel Cristal, if I remember correctly. And then I had another one, that I can't totally remember, but they were both dupes and they both smelled very, very similar. So I think of the two options I'm gonna give you, that one would probably be your best bet. Now, I don't know how readily available that one is. If I can find a link for it, I will link it for you. Another one is an Elizabeth Arden fragrance, and it's the Elizabeth Arden Fifth Avenue line, and it is the NYC Premier flanker of the Fifth Avenue line. I read reviews on that one, and a lot of people say, no, it doesn't. It's not like exactly like Dior Addict, but that it is similar. There are some people that are like, I even like it better than Dior Addict. It's a little bit more wearable. Whether it smells like the original formulation or could be called a dupe, I couldn't tell you, but most people agree that it is very, very similar, that it is definitely like in the same wheelhouse as Dior Addict. So if you don't like the current formulation of Dior Addict, because in my opinion, they didn't butcher it, I still really enjoy the original formulation. But if you just don't want to spend that kind of money, I would definitely check out the Elizabeth Arden. Though I have heard the Elizabeth Arden one has been discontinued too, but people say it's readily available on eBay. Okay, Dior Hypnotic Poison, the original formulation. So there are so many fragrances on the market that smell like Hypnotic Poison. So I just took a few that have either been recommended to me or that I have smelled myself. So I have had the Tesori d'Orient Fiore del Dragon or del Dragon. I've had that one recommended to me as a good Hypnotic Poison dupe. Those are very inexpensive fragrances. You can find them on the makeup website. I'll link it for you. They're like between $10 and $20. Zara Hypnotic Vanilla. I have not smelled that one myself, but I had a bunch of people tell me it smells like Dior Hypnotic Poison, so I didn't pick that one up. But people have said that it's a really good dupe, and I think Zara is still carrying that one. And then also a niche fragrance that I have a sample of that I can definitely recommend that I think smells really, really similar to the original formulation of Hypnotic Poison is a fragrance from Profumum Roma, and it's called Confetto. And I remember when I tested that thinking, oh wow, this smells really, really similar to the original formulation of Hypnotic Poison. So those are all, that one is not a hard one to find. Like if you want just a cheapy version of Hypnotic Poison, you can get a Rive dupe. They're pretty readily available. Dior Pure Poison. So again, there are a lot of fragrances that people say it smells like Pure Poison, but there are only two that have been recommended to me over and over again, and those are the only ones I'm going to tell you about. So there's one from a house called Jesus del Pazo, which is a pretty affordable house, and it is Jesus del Pazo in white. I've heard really good things about that one. People say it smells really similar to Pure Poison, but my probably number one recommendation would be Jaipur Bracelet. I have had countless numbers of people tell me that it smells exactly like Pure Poison, and that's the one that I would probably recommend. Mugler Angel and Angel Liqueur. So again, there are a ton of fragrances on the market that smell like Angel. The one that I've heard the best reviews of, or the one that I've heard the best things about, is a fragrance from Molinard, and it's called Nirmala. I have been hearing for years and years that is a really good Angel dupe, that it's actually even a little bit more wearable than Angel. So that's probably the one that I would recommend. Though I will say, you can find vintage bottles of Angel so easily. I mean, there are just millions of bottles of vintage Angel in every iteration, in every formulation. Like, you can find them very, very easily, and you can still find them pretty affordably because they're so readily available. Mugler Alien Essence Absolute, 100% just get the Dua dupe of it. I have a sample of the Dua dupe myself, and it is identical. I mean, I could not tell the difference. I sprayed the real thing on one hand and the Dua dupe on the other, and there are the most minute little differences when you first spray it, like in the opening, but the dry down is identical. You cannot tell the difference. I have a subscriber that is on her second bottle already. My beautiful friend Tatiana, who is a Mugler like purist, she loves Mugler fragrances. She just picked up a bottle of the Dua dupe, and she is very happy with it because it is an incredible dupe. I can't recommend it enough. Giorgio Armani Si Le Parfum. I hate to say it, I cannot find a dupe of that fragrance. I just can't. I've never smelled anything like it before. I've never had anybody tell me of like a reliable fragrance that smells like it. Like, I've never found a dupe of it. I will keep my nose out, and if I ever do find a dupe, I will let you guys know. Viktor and Rolf Lavender Illusion. That's another one. I can't find a dupe of it anywhere. I think it's because the combination of the finger lime and the lavender is like, it's not groundbreaking or anything, but I've never smelled anything that smells quite like it. And I don't know of anything that smells like it. Stella McCartney Stella. I have had so many people tell me so many different fragrances, and I have smelled probably like 90% of the fragrances that people have recommended to me that I smell, that smell like Stella. And there are 3 that I can tell you are similar. Are they 100% dupes? No. The closest fragrance I have ever smelled that smells like Stella is an Arden fragrance, and it is Arden Rose de Grace. That's an expensive perfume, but if you really love Stella and you really want a fragrance that smells similar to it, that's going to be your best bet. That's the closest thing I've ever smelled. Miller Harris Rose Silences, I think is what it's called, or Rose Silence. I have a sample of that too that somebody sent me. That one it's pretty good. It's not as good as the Arden one, but it's pretty good. It'll suffice. And then another one that is long discontinued, but if you can find it, it is very, very similar, is a Body Shop fragrance. It is Body Shop Moroccan Rose. I had a bottle of Moroccan Rose back that I found at TJ Maxx back when I was wearing Stella, and I remember finding it at TJ Maxx thinking, wow, this is really similar to Stella, and I picked it up because I loved it, and I think it's been discontinued. I went through the whole bottle of the Body Shop one, but it was very, very similar. So if you can ever find a bottle of the Body Shop Moroccan Rose, that one is also very, very similar to Stella. But I would again say my number 1 would be the Arden Rose de Grace, because that's readily available. Stella Nude. Stella Nude is not hard to do because it's very similar to fragrances. The only thing about Stella Nude that's hard to dupe is that Ugandan vanilla that is in the base of it. Stella Nude is actually very similar to Elizabeth and James Nirvana White. I think that if you layered like a really light vanilla with Elizabeth and James Nirvana White, I think you would get something very, very similar to Stella Nude. Also, pure DKNY, A Drop of Rose, is very, very similar to Stella Nude. In fact, if of the 2, that would be my number 1 choice. It's not easy to find. Well, I think it's easy to find those DKNY drop of fragrances. I don't know if they've been discontinued or not, but the Drop of Rose one is very, very similar to Stella Nude. The most similar thing I think I've ever smelled. Guerlain My Insolence. This is a hard one because I've never really smelled anything else that smells quite like My Insolence except for French Kiss, which is another Guerlain fragrance, which is also very, very expensive. If price doesn't matter though, I would just pick up French Kiss. I think it's the closest thing I've ever smelled. However, I did find another fragrance from Natura, which is a Brazilian brand. And though that brand is becoming more and more popular here in the States, I think they have a US website, in fact, but it's called Essential Supreme. And when I looked, that one got the most, when I looked on Fragrantica to see like what smelled similar, because I don't know of anything else that smells like My Insolence, that one got the most like up votes and the least down votes. So though I haven't smelled that one myself, I'm gonna say that other people think that that smells like Insolence. But other than that, I haven't smelled anything else that smells quite like it except for Guerlain French Kiss. And even French Kiss is different, but it's close. French Kiss is very, very close to My Insolence. But I want to look for a bottle of the Natura one because I want to see, because though I do have a backup bottle of My Insolence, I'm almost about to break into my backup bottle. So I would love to find something else that's similar. McQueen Parfum. So all of the Alexander McQueen fragrances have been discontinued. McQueen Parfum is it's a tuberose fragrance, and it's not anything groundbreaking, but it's like a peppery tuberose. It's a peppery, fresh, clean tuberose that's not really indolic. People on Fragrantica were saying that the Madonna Truth or Dare perfume smelled like it, Fracas smelled like it. I do not agree with that. Just because those are tuberose fragrances doesn't mean that they smell like McQueen Parfum just because it's a tuberose fragrance. McQueen Parfum is It's a different kind of tuberose. It's not like Fricka or those types of tuberoses. Now, if you can find any of the McQueen perfumes that are in the bottle that the McQueen Parfum is in, like the bottle, the kind of rounded bottle with like the studded lids, those are all tuberose fragrances, and they're all very similar. They have very similar note breakdown. But if you cannot find that, another tuberose fragrance that I actually decluttered it because it was too similar to McQueen Parfum is a Miller Harris perfume called Noix de Tubereuse. That's one that I have owned, and it's so similar to McQueen Parfum that I had to declutter it because I didn't need two fragrances like that in my collection. So, and you can find the Miller Harris one pretty readily. Kate Walsh Boyfriend, I didn't even look to see if there's anything similar to the old one because the new one is still fantastic. You don't need I say you don't need it, and you might think you do need it. If you're somebody that thinks that you need something that smells just like the old one, let me know and I'll try and find an alternative for it. But my advice would be to just get the new one. The new formulation is really, really beautiful. It's not super different than the old formulation. I would be happy with just the new formulation if it were me. Like when I go through my bottle of the old one, I'll be perfectly happy to get the new one and just move on. Commodity Gold, the original formulation of Commodity Gold. I have one perfume in my collection that reminds me of it that is very, very similar, and it's very, very affordable, and that is Mix Bar Bourbon Vanilla. It's actually quite similar to Commodity Gold, the original formulation. None of the Commodity Golds the new ones that they came out with smell like the original one. So if I had to recommend an alternative for it, I would go with the Mix Bar Bourbon Vanilla. Commodity Rain. This one was super easy because I've smelled quite a few fragrances like Commodity Rain, which is again the original formulation. Clean Reserve Rain is very, very similar to it. Water Lily Tea Dress from Zara is very, very similar to it. Pure DKNY Verbena is very, very similar to it. In fact, and Alfred Sung She. That one I knew immediately because my mom used to wear a lot of the Alfred Sung fragrances. In fact, I really need to pick up the old Alfred Sung fragrances because just for nostalgia, and it's readily available and it's very affordable. Okay, Armani Code. That's one of those fragrances that there are a lot of fragrances that kind of smell like it. It's just an orange blossom and honey fragrance, so it's not anything groundbreaking, but at the same time, there's nothing that like really smells like it. So if I had to find a replacement for it, I would probably go with the Rive dupe. I have smelled the Rive dupe before. It's been, in fact, I think I had a bottle of it a long time ago. It's called Rive Amore de Notte, Notte. I'll have it on the screen for you. But if I had to find an alternative for Armani Code, that's what I would go for. It's affordable. It smells very similar. It doesn't have the depth that the OG Code has, but it smells like it. It's super similar. Rive dupes are actually quite good for the price. And if you let them age for like years, they get really, really good. Okay, Ralph Lauren Tender Romance. I've never smelled anything that smells quite like it. I did have to refer to Fragrantica for this one. The one fragrance that stood out to me that had more upvotes than downvotes was the Cosmopolitan fragrance, the ones that come in those juice box looking things. It was the one in the blue juice box, and it was called Juice 100% Chilled. More people said that it smelled like it than didn't, and I didn't agree with any of the other fragrances on the list because I've never smelled anything quite like Tender Romance. That ginger and pear combination it's pretty unique, and because it's like a very syrupy ginger and pear and it's sweet, I have never smelled anything quite like it. So going by what other people were saying, I would say that Cosmopolitan Juice 100% Chilled is probably your best bet. And then last but not least, Moschino Couture. That's another one. I've never smelled anything quite like it. I did look on Fragrantica. I really didn't agree with any of the fragrances that people had listed, but a lot of people did say Fragonard Rose Lavande, which it had more upvotes than downvotes, and just looking at it, it looked like probably the best alternative that I saw on the list, just because I didn't agree with any of the other ones. And Moschino Couture is quite unique. I've never really smelled anything else like it. So I think if you want something that smells like it, though I do think you can find bottles of Couture relatively easy on the gray market. But if not, you could check out the Fragonard one, Rose Lavande. I think that one maybe be your best bet. But anyways, you guys, those are, let me know if you want me to do this with my part 2, my unicorns part 2 list. I would be happy to. I love finding dupe fragrances for things that can't be found anymore. But yeah, I'd be happy to do a part 2 to this. Let me know if you guys enjoyed it. If you did, don't forget to give it a big thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe before you leave, and I will see you in my next one. Bye.